Dear ladies and gentlemen, let us begin, not with fear, but with clarity. You may find the title uncomfortable. No one is your friend. Sounds harsh, doesn't it? But truth is not always sweet. Sometimes it must sting before it heals. When I say be careful, I do not mean paranoid, I mean conscious. Life is not about walking blindly with assumptions. It is about walking awake. We live in a world where relationships are often formed not out of understanding, but out of need, out of convenience, out of shared interests, not shared essence. If you think someone is your friend simply because they laugh with you, agree with you, or stand beside you in good times, you are gambling with your peace. You are not in danger because people are bad. You are in danger when you expect permanence in things that are temporary. A real friend is not someone who makes you feel good. A real friend is someone who holds up a mirror even when the reflection is uncomfortable. Ask yourself how many people in your life fit that definition. You see, the world is filled with roles, not souls. People will play friend, partner, ally, but are they truly with you, or are they with their benefit in being with you? This is not to make you bitter. This is to make you wise. Your liberation is not in finding a perfect friend. Your liberation is in being so rooted within yourself that even if the whole world walks away, you remain whole. So let me offer you 10 simple truths to reflect upon. Friendship, as most people know it, is not built on profound understanding or deep inner connection. It is often built on convenience, shared interests, emotional dependency, or the mutual exchange of benefits, whether material, emotional, or social. When two people call each other friends, what they are frequently referring to is an arrangement, a kind of informal contract. You be there for me when I need you, and I'll do the same. There is nothing inherently wrong with this, but mistaking it for unconditional companionship is where the danger begins. Consider how many relationships are formed in the shared environment of schools, offices, neighborhoods, or online spaces. When people meet in such places, there is often a similarity in purpose or direction. Students trying to pass exams, colleagues trying to climb the same corporate ladder, or hobbyists sharing the same online interest. That common goal creates proximity, and proximity breeds interaction. Through repeated interaction, we start labeling people as friends. But if the exam ends, if the job changes, if the hobby fades, what happens to the so-called friendship? The truth is, when the underlying purpose dissolves, so does the connection. Many people who were once your closest friends can vanish from your life as silently as they entered. This is not necessarily betrayal. It is just the nature of human association when it is rooted in externalities. And yet we feel hurt, abandoned, even shocked. Why? Because we assumed that the presence of warmth and laughter was proof of loyalty and depth. But emotion, while sweet, is not always a sign of substance. When people feel lonely, they do not seek truth. They seek comfort. So they build relationships quickly based on emotional resonance. In such states, one is not really looking for a companion, they are looking for relief, and the one who provides that relief becomes a friend. But the problem arises when the need changes. If one outgrows the other, or if the dynamics shift, the connection often fades. Now what we called friendship turns into silence, distance, and in some cases, even resentment. In reality, very few people are interested in you as you are. They are interested in the version of you that serves their narrative, fulfills their need, or supports their worldview. The moment you step out of that role, say something uncomfortable, grow in a direction they don't relate to, or become less accessible, the warmth they once showed may start to disappear. That's when you realize it wasn't about you, it was about what you represent. True friendship is a meeting of beings, not benefits. It does not hinge on frequency, flattery, or function, but most relationships do. Most people will not walk with you in your silence, in your uncertainty, or in your shadow. They will walk with you when you are entertaining, inspiring, or beneficial. So when you look around and say, "These are my friends," pause, reflect not out of suspicion but out of wisdom. Ask yourself, If all my qualities and advantages were stripped away, my humor, my wealth, my influence, my usefulness, who would still stand with me? Not many, and that is not sad. That is just the truth most do not want to see. Friendship based on utility is like a bridge made of sand. It may hold for a while, but when the tides of life rise, it cannot stand. Recognizing this is not negativity, it is clarity, and from that clarity, deeper relationships can form, but those will not be many, and they will never be accidental. In a world where most friendships are entangled with unconscious expectation, learning to see through this illusion is a step toward true freedom, because when you no longer mistake need for love or habit for loyalty, you start moving through life with open eyes, and more importantly, with an open soul that does not cling blindly in the name of companionship. Not because they are malicious, but simply because life is in a constant state of flux, and human beings are not exempt from this rhythm. Just as the body grows and decays, so does the personality evolve, shift and adapt to changing circumstance. Expecting someone to remain the same throughout their journey is like expecting the river to freeze in place while still flowing. It is a contradiction. The person you once knew may still carry the same name, the same face, the same voice, but within, the software of thought, emotion, belief, and desire is continuously updating. One moment you are laughing together, deeply connected in understand. A few years later, you look across the table and realize you no longer know this person. Or perhaps more truthfully, they no longer know you. The friendship that felt like an eternal flame begins to flicker under the winds of time, circumstance, and interchange. What causes this shift? Sometimes it is success. A person who once walked humbly beside you may find themselves surrounded by new influences, new ambitions, and new distractions. Their priorities shift, their language shifts, and though they may not say it aloud, the time you once shared becomes too simple, too small for their new identity. Sometimes it is suffering. A person who was once full of joy may go through pain that alters their very view of. They withdraw, become silent, or build walls where once there were open arms. And sometimes, change happens without any drama at all, subtle, invisible, like the slow turning of seasons. No loud argument, no clear betrayal, just distance, just silence, just a slow fading away. And yet even in such quiet exits, people often feel hurt. Why? Because deep down, they held the expectation that connection meant permanence. That once someone was a friend, they would always be a friend. But permanence is not the nature of human relationship. It is a fantasy taught by movies, poetry, and stories, written by those who wish the world worked differently. In reality, what we call friendship is often a dance of two people whose needs, energies, and circumstances are momentarily aligned. When that alignment breaks, the dance ends, not because anyone is wrong, but because the rhythm has changed. We don't suffer because people change, we suffer because we resist that change. We want others to remain frozen in the version of themselves that we fell in love with, trusted, or relied upon, but they are not statues in our emotional museum. They are breathing, evolving life forms with their own paths, their own lessons, their own transformation. There is a strange kind of maturity that arises when you learn to let people go without bitterness. When you can say that chapter was beautiful, and now it is over, without demanding a sequel, without begging for a rerun. When you stop trying to drag old versions of people into your present, you make room for who they are now, and more importantly, for who you are now. Understand this. If you are growing, you will outgrow some friendships. And if you are stagnant, people who are growing will outgrow you. This is not personal. It is just how life moves. Trying to preserve every friendship you ever had is like trying to carry every stone you ever picked up. Eventually it breaks your back. Learn to travel light, so when you feel someone slipping away, not with cruelty, but with change, observe. Do not cling. If the connection is real and rooted in something beyond circumstance, it will evolve with you. If not, it will dissolve. Either way, Your peace must not depend on their consistency. Life is not here to guarantee you unchanging companionship. Life is here to teach you how to stand unshaken amid constant change. When you accept this, you stop grieving what leaves, and you start appreciating what stays, if anything does. And more than anything, you discover something powerful, that your inner stability is the only true anchor in a sea of impermanence. But this loyalty, in its highest form, is not something that can be demanded, bargained for, or even promised. It is something that arises naturally when a relationship touches a deeper space within two human beings, a space where there is no pretense, no performance, and no transaction. True friendship is rare, precisely because it is not built on convenience. It is not maintained by daily conversations or shared entertainment. It doesn't depend on your mood, your wealth, your influence, or your ability to fulfill someone's need. It rests silently in a different place, beneath all the layers where most relationships exist. You don't have to remind a true friend to be there. You don't have to test them or fear their absence. Their presence is not performative. It is a quiet constant, even in long periods of silence. But what most people call friendship is very different. It is built on mutual comfort, shared opinions, and more often than we'd like to admit, on mutual validation. You like someone because they agree with you. You spend time with them because they make you feel good, understood, appreciated. As long as you continue to play the version of yourself that aligns with their preferences and emotional climate, the bond remains intact. But the moment you step outside of that script, perhaps by growing in a way they don't understand, or saying something they don't agree with, you may find their warmth cooling, their interest fading. And so we have a culture where people form alliances, not friendship. You support me, I support you. You cheer for me, I'll cheer for you. We are close, as long as there is harmony in behavior. But real connection is not always harmonious. It is honest. A true friend will not always agree with you. In fact, they may challenge you, question you, even make you uncomfortable. Not out of opposition, but out of care, because they see something in you that perhaps you are not willing to face yourself. But how many of us are truly open to that kind of relationship? Most people want to be seen, but only in flattering light. They want to be loved, but not questioned. They want support, but not reflection. This is why deep friendship is because it requires both people to have the courage to see and be seen, fully, without masks, without ego, without defense. True loyalty and friendship does not come from obligation. It is not rooted in time spent or promises made in emotional moments. It comes from a deeper resonance. It's when two people, even in silence or distance, remain energetically aligned. You don't have to speak every day. You don't need to prove anything. You just know when the ground shakes, they are still there, not out of duty, but because they are rooted in something beyond your changing identity. This kind of friendship cannot be built with everyone. It is not meant to be widespread. Just as not every seed becomes a tree, not every interaction becomes a sacred connection, and yet many people chase the illusion of this depth. In every relationship, they assume closeness means depth. But closeness can be proximity, habit, routine. Depth is something else entirely. It requires inner stillness, maturity, and a willingness to see each other without the fog of personal need. So, it's important to see through the nature of the bonds you carry. Are they loyal because they are genuine, or are they simply sustained because you haven't yet caused discomfort? Are the people around you committed to your truth, or just to your pleasing qualities? Friendship is not about how long someone has known you. It is about how deeply they know you, and how unafraid they are to reflect you back to yourself, even when you don't want to. And it's about whether you are willing to do the same in return. When loyalty is inspired, not enforced, it becomes a silent, sacred force. It does not announce itself. It does not require reminders. It does not keep a record. It simply flows without need, without pride, and without fear of loss. That kind of friendship is not common, but if you have even one person in your life like that, count yourself among the blessed. If you do not, Become that person for yourself. Let your clarity, your depth, your honesty be your own loyal companion. Everything else will align in its own time or fall away as it must. Before you go out into the world expecting truth from others, expecting honesty, loyalty, or depth, first pause and look within. This may sound simple, even poetic, but in reality, it is the most uncomfortable journey you will ever. Because facing truth in yourself is not about affirming your goodness, it is about uncovering your contradictions. It is about confronting the masks you didn't even know you were wearing. Most people build relationships without first understanding who they are. They walk into friendships, partnerships, and social circles carrying a set of unconscious needs, validation, attention, distraction, emotional shelter, and then feel betrayed when those needs aren't met. But how can someone else meet a need that you yourself have never clearly acknowledged? How can another be true to you when you have not been fully true to yourself? There is a deep urge in the human mind to project. We project our hopes onto others, our disappointments, our unmet desires. We see in people not who they are, but who we want them to be. We expect them to carry our emotional weight, to protect us from loneliness, to mirror back our ideal self-image, but no one was born to carry the burden of your incompletion. The moment you place that expectation on another human being, you've already set the stage for pain. This is why the inner work must come first. If you are not grounded in your own truth, you will always search for it in others. And even when you think you've found it, when someone seems to understand you, comfort you, reflect your worth, you will cling to them, not because of who they are, but because of what they represent. Relief from your inner fragmentation, that is not love. That is not connection. That is dependency in disguise. To face truth in yourself is not about becoming flawless. It is about becoming real. It means sitting in silence long enough to hear the noise in your own mind. It means observing your impulses without judgment, acknowledging the games you play to be liked, the masks you wear to be accepted. And it means seeing clearly where your need for connection comes from, whether it is rooted in genuine affection or simply a fear of being alone with yourself. When you begin to do this inner work, you become less reactive. You don't chase people out of desperation. You don't cling to relationships out of fear. You stop needing everyone to like you, agree with you, or stay close. Why? Because you've found something more stable, your own inner center. From that center, your interactions become freer. You no longer need to manipulate others to stay. You allow people to come and go without collapsing into anxiety. You start seeing people more clearly without the fog of need distorting your perception. And most importantly, when you face truth in yourself, you begin to recognize truth in others. You stop being impressed by surface charm, sweet words, or temporary attention. You learn to feel the energy behind the gesture. You sense when someone is being real and when they are simply performing a role. Your relationships may become fewer, but they will become purer. Not many can meet you in that space, because most are still hiding from themselves. But those who do, they will not bond with your mask. They will connect with your essence. Without this inner clarity, you will be like a mirror seeking another mirror. What will you reflect except emptiness? But if you've already met yourself fully, you no longer approach others to complete you. You approach them to share what you already are. That is where real connection begins. Not in need, not in pretense, but in presence. So before you go demanding truth, love, and loyalty from the world, ask yourself, have I offered these things to myself first? Have I looked into the corners of my being where the light rarely touches? Have I embraced even the parts of me I wish were different? If the answer is no, then the search must turn inward, not to punish yourself, but to liberate yourself. Because once the search begins within, the world outside no longer holds the power to deceive you. You have already met the one person you need to trust fully yourself. Many times in life you will encounter moments when your silence is misunderstood, your honesty is resisted, or your truth is inconvenient for others. And in those moments, People you once trusted may walk away. They may not slam the door. They may not offer explanation. They may simply fade, retreat, or go silent, not because you harmed them, but because your authenticity no longer fits their comfort zone. This is one of the most difficult truths to digest, that people will leave not only when you are wrong, but also when you are, not only when you fail them, but also when you grow. Sometimes your healing, your clarity, your elevation in consciousness, these very things can become uncomfortable mirrors for those around you. When you stop playing old emotional games, when you refuse to engage in drama, or when you begin to speak with a new depth or detachment, it can shake the delicate balance that some friendships are built upon. You may think, but I was honest. You were. I didn't do anything wrong. You didn't. I just needed some space. That's all. Yet still someone pulls away, stops returning your messages, or turns cold without warning. This is the painful beauty of awakening. As you become more authentic, your energy becomes more refined, and not everyone will be able to meet you at that level. Do not mistake this for failure. Do not rush to apologize for your growth. You were not born to shapeshift endlessly just to be accepted. You were born to become true, and truth by its very nature filters. It purifies your environment. It sifts out what was only loosely held together by fear, dependence, or mutual illusion. Often we think that if we are kind, honest, and loyal, people will stay, but life has a subtler law. People stay if they are meant to walk the same path at the same pace, with the same depth of awareness. When that alignment ends, their presence may end too. This is not cruelty, it is nature. When a branch no longer serves the growth of the tree, it withers and falls. The tree does not mourn, it simply continues to rise. You may find yourself sitting in a room where you were once welcome, now feeling like a stranger. You may realize the people you once called friends no longer understand your silence, your direction, or your inner landscape. This is not a signal to shrink yourself, it is a signal that you are evolving, and evolution rarely brings applause in its early stages. Most people will applaud your healing only when it still makes them comfortable. The moment it asks them to reflect on their own wounds, many will retreat. Let them go, not with anger, not with judgment, but with grace. Their journey is different. Their pace is different. Their readiness is different. You don't have to convince anyone of your worth. You don't have to explain your growth to those who never asked to understand it. Your transformation does not require a witness to be real. The tree grows in silence. The mountain stands alone. So when people walk away from you, especially at the very moment when you are stepping into a more truthful version of yourself, remember, they are not rejecting your essence. They are resisting what it evokes in them. Your presence may stir discomfort, not because you are wrong, but because you are resonating at a frequency that calls them out of hiding, and not everyone is ready to come out. This is the cost of inner evolution. Some will love you more deeply and some will leave without a word. Don't let either change your direction. Those who are meant to journey with you will not fear your fire. They will sit beside it, warm their hands, and walk beside you without needing to tame the flame. The rest will drift, and that's all right. Let the silence they leave behind become the space where your truth echoes louder. Let the absence become the proof that your journey is becoming more honest, more whole. You are not losing people. You are shedding the need to be surrounded by those who cannot see the fullness of your becoming. That is not loneliness. That is liberation. There is a harsh but liberating truth you must come to terms with. No one owes you anything. Not love, not loyalty, not understanding, not present. It may sound cold at first, even cruel, especially in a world that speaks so much about relationships, connection, and belonging. But look a little closer, and you'll see that this truth is not a punishment. It is a profound key to freedom. From the moment we are born, we are surrounded by expectations. Some are spoken, most are silently absorbed. You're taught to expect support from friends, attention from family, affection from partners, respect from peers, and when those expectations are not fulfilled, you feel hurt, betrayed, abandoned. But is the pain really coming from the other's behavior, or is it coming from the weight of your own unspoken assumption? You see, when you expect someone to behave in a certain way, to always understand you, always check on you, always agree with you. You are no longer relating to them as they are. You are relating to them as a character in your mental script. They stop being human and instead become a role you've written: the loyal friend, the perfect partner, the constant companion. And when they act out of script, you suffer, not because they betrayed you, but because they failed to play the part you imagined. But life does not follow your script. People are not born to fit into your story. They are on their own journey, with their own struggles, wounds, fears, and thresholds of awareness. What they offer or do not offer is not always a reflection of your worth. Sometimes they simply do not have the capacity to meet your needs. Sometimes they are so caught in their own inner chaos that they cannot see beyond it. And sometimes they were never meant to walk with you forever. When you begin to let go of the belief that others owe you something, your suffering begins to dissolve. Not because the pain disappears, but because you stop tying your peace to their behavior. You stop expecting people to be perfect mirrors of your emotions. You begin to understand their choices are theirs. Their silence is theirs. Their distance is theirs. Your responsibility is only to respond with clarity, not to control their role in your life. This shift may feel lonely at first. When you stop expecting, you also stop pretending. You stop chasing people to stay. You stop manipulating yourself to keep their approval. But what grows in that space is something far more powerful than companionship. It is self-possession. The awareness that you are whole, even when others walk away. That your worth is not up for negotiation, just because someone else could not hold it. And when you live from that place, relationships transform. You no longer enter them out of need, but out of joy. You no longer demand. You share. You no longer grip. You flow. You allow people to come and go, knowing that no one can complete you and no one can truly abandon you, because the home you were searching for in others, you have built within yourself. When someone gives you love, be grateful, but don't hold it like a... When someone supports you, receive it, but don't demand it again tomorrow. When someone chooses to walk beside you, cherish it, but don't tie your sense of self to their footsteps. This is not detachment. This is maturity. It is the quiet strength of knowing that nothing is promised, and yet everything can be appreciated. It is the clarity to see that the more you release people from the prison of your expectations, the more freely you can love them, not for what they give you, but simply for who they are in the moments they choose to be near. And when they leave, as many will, leave with grace in your heart, not bitterness, not guilt, just the simple awareness. They owed you nothing, and yet they were a part of your story. A beautiful part, perhaps. A painful one, maybe, but not a permanent one. Let that be enough. Let that be your peace.